8th and 9th last year, even though Israel had just been attacked by Hamas on the 7th. I was in the middle of handling an international crisis.
I can't believe that the way that we are analyzing the leader of the free world, the most powerful person on the planet, is like how well he presents himself, how mentally coherent he can present himself in 59-second increments. Okay? That is insane. That is insane. What is this? Have you seen this about Biden? He did not remember when he was in his interview with our office. Mr. Biden's memory was worse. He did not remember when he was vice president. Forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended. If it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president? And forgetting the second day of the interview when his term began in 2009. Am I still vice president? He did not remember even within several years when his son Bo died, and his memory appeared hazy when describing Afghanistan. The puppet theory was real all along. I'm going to be sick. I just want a president I can analyze an actual historical actor. Is this really too much to ask? It's going to be 2029, and the most recent president to have actually been in charge will still have been Obama. Tears in my eyes. The report on Biden's handling of classified documents predicts that a jury wouldn't convict him because it would find him a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Oh, wait, what? I've never been more vindicated in my entire life. Oh my God. Oh my God. Where are the libtards now? Where are the liberals now? I am so goddamn vindicated. Oh my God. Hasan, there's a massive crime wave. Why are you pro-crime? Vindicated. Turns out everybody was lying about it, just like I said. Hasan, there's a massive problem with immigration. How do we deal with immigration? Vindicated. Okay? Hasan, I can't believe you're saying Joseph Robinette Brandon is demented. Okay? Turns out he is so goddamn demented that a jury saw that too. Special counsel Robert Hur says that there's evidence President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials, but he will not be charged. We also have considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury as he did during our interview of him as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory, it said. Based on our direct interactions with our observations of him, he is someone whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, by then a former president well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Oh my God, dude. They said he's literally too old to do crime. Remember what I've talked about before with like old people? There's like a certain age that if you're above that and you do a crime, you should be able to get away with it because it's like a baby doing a crime. This is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is literally at that stage in his life. Okay? Straight up. It's babies and it's old people. When you get to that certain point and you have the mechanical skills of a baby and your brain is like withered away, that you are like a baby with a baby brain. Okay? Joe Biden is literally at that stage in his life. Oh my God. It's so sick. It's so sick. Remember when Trump said women camera TV as a flex? It literally was. You know Hutch in his stream room cooking the worst meal you ever seen right now? How does that not legally disqualify you from being the president? The most charitable interpretation of this special counsel report is that Biden is playing it up for a jury. That's what liberals will probably say. But god damn, dude, this is going to be such a Fox News is going to literally Steve Ducey is going to take his cock out and fuck the paper that this 345-page Justice Department finding, okay? Brian Kilmeade is going to be like, let me after you, Steve Ducey. They're literally going to go nutty mode on it. Jesse Waters has already locked himself into a hyperbaric chamber, jerking off, masturbating piece by piece. Every single one of them has paper cuts on their penises, okay? Holy moly. Oh my God. I can't wait to see what the Fox 5 have to say about this, dude. They are going to ritualistically execute that one liberal that sits on the liberal chair, Jessica Tarlov or whatever. They're going to be like, Jessica, line up. And then they're all going to sever her head like it's an ISIS decapitation video with the paper that they got from the Justice Department. Jesus Christ. The person on the cuck chair today at Fox 5 is not going to have a good time, okay? It's bukkake time. I hope it's Geraldo that sits there today. If Trump takes a turn towards senility soon, do you think he's just picking up Biden strats? I like that we are, by the way, decapitations are actually very in right now, especially for MAGA. Like ISIS kind of fell off on the decapitation front. You rarely ever see like a decapitation from ISIS. Now the MAGA boys have picked up picked up where the ISIS boys left off. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, we love decapitation. How much do you think the story will come up during the election year? The Biden broken brain problem? Well, considering that it's Joseph Robinette Biden's number one issue, this is literally like the Republicans' abortion issue. You know what I mean? Democrats have one issue that they can always hammer on this election cycle and possibly in perpetuity. That issue is abortion. Republicans cut off access to abortion. They will always hit that vein every single time. For the Republicans, they can always say, Biden is senile, Biden is senile, Biden is fucking dumb, Biden is stupid. And it's true. How long until the liberals start saying, wow, you must be, one, Vladimir Putin backed, and two, backed by the MAGA party, because you are also saying that Biden is senile, by the way. How much? How much you want to bet that that is what's going to happen? This report is insane. This report is actually insane. Let's go to CNN to see how they're covering. Let's go to Fox News to see how they're... let's go to CNN first. I have to see what they're saying about this.
Clear, and this report is clear. It is not the same legally what Biden did compared to what Trump did. Trump, repeatedly given the chance to cooperate in his investigation, did not. That is not what happened with Biden. But there's another part here, which is, does this politically invalidate that case? And that... God,
Republicans are so good at like showing liberal hypocrisy. They're going to eat this up, okay? If he willfully retained classified documents, okay, and then he gave it up when the investigators were like, let's get your documents. What's happening? Are there any classified documents here? Yes, he's like one step above Donald Trump, who very stupidly decided not to do that for some weird reason, which I still do not understand. But like,
I mean, there are more than just 6 or 7 different examples of him not remembering. And just to this week, as Sean's point was, you know, he's not doing a Super Bowl interview. He's not giving press conferences. The former president sat in front of the cameras today and gave an entire news conference on what he thinks the Supreme Court decision is going to mean for him. And we haven't heard from Joe Biden in quite some time. So it's hard to make for the country to believe the argument that he's sharp as a tack. And when you read this and you hear some of the current statements and the absolute fact that he's not going to go before the country and answer a few questions from CBS, which is not going to exactly throw him Nolan Ryan curveballs.
Well, a lot to unpack there. I'm glad you're only referencing 6 or 7 paragraphs out of 300 plus pages. So I would give him a pretty good grade for that. Let me just be clear. I care about what he's done as president legislatively, and I care what he's done from a foreign policy perspective. I'm glad we passed the money for the Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel today. I hope the House does their job. We passed infrastructure bill, bipartisan. President Trump was talking about infrastructure week for 4 straight years and never passed it. I think we should spend time on looking at our successes, okay, as opposed to when he, slipped on a bit of a confusion on a 45-minute speech when everyone does that. I'm not going to get into whatsaboutism, but we all know what I'm talking about.
Okay, Katie Pavlich, to you, because it just seems to me like there is mounting evidence that maybe some people, when they have these polls that show, 23% of the voters think that he has the ability to become president or be president again because of his mental acuity.
Well, Trace, you mentioned the lack of access to the president. So on Tuesday, he said that he was going to talk to reporters today, Thursday afternoon, that he would answer their questions. Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, had to walk that back. Let's not forget the White House and members of the Judiciary Committee leadership on Capitol Hill have had this report for probably a couple of days now, at least 24 hours. So they probably knew this was coming. Now President Joe Biden will land back on the South Lawn and he will be shouted questions from reporters instead of answering them from the podium in the briefing room, for example. So they're not allowing the American people to get answers on the issues that he supposedly wants to talk about outside of this report. And it also goes back to the issues that he's been facing over the past 3 years with the scandals that have been piling up, including his partnership and affiliation with Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden stayed in the Wilmington, Delaware house during COVID. That's where he was in lockdown. He had access to that that garage. There's photos of him driving the Corvette with the boxes in the background with people, strangers in the car who don't have background checks, who don't have security clearances. So this opens up a whole another issue for the White House, and they've tried to avoid talking about that. And there's big questions about why he wanted to keep the classified information. What was the purpose of that, especially given that Hunter Biden had so much access to it, and he was working with people around the world who do not like the United States of America and do not have the best interests of this country in mind. It seems like he should be more responsible as president than that.
Katie makes a good point. I mean, his son had a substance abuse problem, had access to that house, had access to the garage. Sean Duffy, to you, we've got to go, but I want to get your
I'm not going to lie. This is like way, way chiller than I thought. I thought they would be going dicko mode. I thought they'd be going sicko mode and dicko mode at the same time. It feels like CNN is going harder than Fox News.
It's not pretty in the Department of Justice either. But the considerations as to why you're going to encase that sausage are all about how you can prove your case. And cooperation goes a very long way. Why? Not because it's a way of sort of kissing up, but because it undermines, before a jury, the notion that somebody is intentionally engaged in behavior that was nefarious and criminal. Now, the fact that there was...
They're going to say, like, look, my assessment of this is that liberals will say, like, the defense of this will be that, oh, they're not saying he's senile. They're saying he's well-intentioned and he comes across as like a kind, loving old man. And that's the reason why there would be reasonable doubt, right? And it's actually Republican framing and Republican propaganda to like claim senility, okay? That's what I would say. If I'm a liberal, DNC-backed, if I'm a DNC PR person, I'm turning around, one, getting mad at every single person even bringing this up, because it's like, it's very obvious to me that you guys are, it's 9 o'clock Kremlin time, it seems. What happened? Did the Tucker Carlson interview not satisfy your needs for Vladimir Putin's cock? And then I'm turning around and saying that it's not actually that he's senile. He just like reads as that in a courtroom. And that's enough of a legal standard for reasonable doubt.
In. Well, the special counsel examined that proposition and thought that was the strongest case to make for a prosecution. But because of the manner in which the documents were kept, the appearances that it was among a number of household different items and beyond suggests that it was not intended to be kept secret and sacrosanct as the way it should have been, or trying to divulge to somebody else. And that factored into all of this. We compare this most directly with the images we've seen from the Mar-a-Lago case, the positioning of the documents, the accessibility to people from the Mar-a-Lago resort and beyond. And while I hesitate to compare these two cases directly, how can one help but do so in this instance? But these are divergent for this very reason. One stepped on a rake, the other cooperated.
Very good point. Laura Coates, thank you so much. If you could stand by for us, we're going to get in a quick break as we follow this breaking news.
God damn, dude. God damn. Why can't they just leave some of the Kennedy files sitting out? Well, Trump put his documents on a stage. Yeah, so obviously the differences between like Trump and Biden is that, yes, Donald Trump refused after they found out that he still retained classified documents. That's the major difference here, is that once the federal government came and was like, you have these documents, we want them, Trump was like, sure, I'll give them to you, and then didn't, right? And lied and actively obstructed justice and actively obstructed the investigation. So Trump is still comically guilty in this situation. Biden, on the other hand, immediately was like, go ahead, take all the documents. I don't give a shit, right? Like, he opened up all of the doors and allowed the investigators to go in and take all the documents and make an assessment. Same with Mike Pence. So the major difference there is that he's not, he cooperated with the government and gave up all of the documents that he had, because it's supposed to be like a lighter criminal punishment, if any criminal punishment is given at all. So Mike Pence and Joe Biden cooperated. Trump didn't. That's the major difference here. But I think that what is more important in this situation, what they found, is that he did actually retain classified documents. There was suspicion of, for sure. However, no charges will be given to Joe Biden, which comes across to a lot of dummies as though there is like a a two-tier justice system, right? Like, oh, I can't believe that there's no charges. But worst of all, not only are there no charges, part of the reasoning for why there are no charges is because they claim that Joe Biden, while looking careless, would come across as too senile and too well-intentioned to a jury where there would be too much reasonable doubt. It's the worst of all worlds. The best of all worlds would be Biden is actually mentally cognizant, mentally coherent, but also he didn't have any classified materials, right? No charges because this is just what you do when you discover classified documents, or just saying that or just saying specifically that yes, of course, no charges because he didn't know that he had it, right? And same with Mike Pence. If they found classified documents in Mike Pence's hands, they're not going to convict him either because he cooperated. Whereas with Trump, the major problem is they were like, hey, you have classified documents. We want them back. Trump was like, sure. First, he was like, no. Then he was like, sure. And then he just retained some of those documents and refused to give them back. For what reason? I do not know. I suspect it was because he's a hoarder and he wanted to flex to Kid Rock. As I said, even back then. Right? Which is pretty funny and really stupid. It's not like Trump did not cooperate once. It was literally 3 times. Exactly. Anyway, but shit's heating up, folks.
Why? And then not even as if he had it in his home, it was in a gun safe or something.
I gotta pee.
No, it was lying, what was it, lying next to the wiffle ball that Hunter plays with? I mean, my goodness, the guy's 50 going on 10 as it is.
If you're at the point of saying what a jury would assess, what that means is you've drawn the conclusion that there is enough evidence to indict the person and enough evidence perhaps to let the jury decide the case. Yeah. And what you're now down to is
now they're trying to figure out if they should go with there's a double standard in the criminal justice. Is there a double standard in criminal justice, or is Biden so senile that a jury would find him to be senile? Why not both?
Is not willfulness. It's gross negligence. So yeah. I really don't understand how the fumbling, bumbling aspect of all this helps him, because if the jury even merely believed that he was grossly negligent, that would be enough to convict.
Yeah, it's a good pivot to you, Saul Weisenberg, because, Andy brings up a very good point is they're projecting, saying, listen, this is what a jury would do. It kind of reminds me of the James Comey speech when he came out for Hillary Clinton's documents saying, well, she made some bad decisions, but, just projecting of what would happen had this thing gone to trial. Nobody knows what's going to happen had this gone to trial. And if there is enough evidence for you to consider that this might go to trial, maybe there's an argument that it should go to trial.
Well, first of all, there's absolutely no truth to the rumor that this report was ghostwritten by Gavin Newsom and his future campaign manager. I just want to put that rumor to rest. That's number one.
They're having less fun with this than I thought they would be.
Has 91 felony charges pending against him. Some of them also involve classified documents in a completely different fact pattern, right? Biden can claim, I was investigated by an independent counsel and I was cleared. There are a lot of cheap shots you're looking at, have nothing to do with the law, but I was cleared. Now, maybe Mr. Trump will be cleared, but he's been indicted, though. Biden was not even charged. Mr. Trump will have a right to defend himself in court. Maybe he's pristinely innocent, but he's looking at 91 felony charges. Joe Biden's looking at 0.
Paul, when we look at the classified documents case that Donald Trump is facing,
it's kind of funny. I feel like they're overwhelmed. It almost feels like Fox News is overwhelmed with what they want to hit. What angle, what avenue of attack. They have too many. They're overstimulated. They're stimming. Okay. They're getting hit with too many fun options and they can't figure out exactly which angle to use here. The 5 will focus up. We'll see. I don't know.
I mean, I think the argument that everybody does it.
They're fumbling a bad bitch. Kind of
cases. I'm not sure how effective it is. The prosecution will have to then make the argument that no, in fact, some people do have classified documents that travel with them when they leave office. Okay. What do they do when
Oh my God. Dude, if I'm a Republican, I'm just cutting all of this footage and matching it up with literally everything that they've said about how devastating it is for Donald Trump to maintain classified documents. Okay. I'm gonna be like, oh, so you don't give a shit when it's Biden to showcase hypocrisy, right? Which, by the way, Fox is obviously insanely hypocritical. Fox is oftentimes conservatives are so hypocritical that they literally will be hypocritical and inconsistent in the same breath. Like they'll be like, as I've talked about before, Trump will be like, I should be able to have classified documents, and therefore this is a mockery of a trial. However, Biden, who's currently president, should not be able to have classified documents, and that's why he should be killed by the state. And it's like, okay, so which is it? Is there a consistent legal principle here? Or is the consistency that only you get to do crimes and they don't? At least for these guys, like, they separate the two. They don't, like, put it in the same coverage. They're not like, Trump has legal documents and should be killed, while also Biden has legal documents and he should not be. Or classified documents and he should not be.
And if this feeds into that narrative, and it does, then it's really problematic. And that's where the Biden people, I'm sure, are really worried and quite upset.
But yeah, I mean, look, I brought this up.
Got a show.
I brought this up when the document saga was first popping off, where I told you, like, this is something that a lot of presidents do, and that it is like reasonable for someone to bring classified documents. What is not reasonable is when the federal government asks for said documents back and you just refuse to give them back to the government. Okay, that's the area where it is not reasonable. And that's precisely what's going on. That's the major difference here between the Biden case and, I guess, the Trump case. Not just the Biden case, but also the Mike Pence case. Like, nobody's talking about Michael Pence. Why is nobody talking about Michael Pence? What if I stash those documents in like a storage unit outside of a town or a guest bathroom? Anyway, what happened to Michael Pence? Well, what happened to Michael Pence is the exact same thing that happened to Joe Biden. They got hit with the top of the hour ad break. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. He said, bruh, I'm trying to learn. Okay. No, Mike Pence was under the same scrutiny and had that same exact investigation that Joe Brandon went under at the same time, as a matter of fact, for classified documents. And they went to his house as well, and they retrieved a bunch of documents. I don't know if they actually found any classified documents, but you know, that is the same exact thing that happened with Joe Biden. So yeah, I use my Amazon Prime subscription. It feels like I'm using a stolen classified document. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Her writes that Biden's practices present serious risks to national security, and that Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency. Her writes, because the box was damaged and not able to properly package classified material, the agents transferred its contents to a new box for transport. The photographs below show the contents of the garage box in the original box and the new box. The Facts First folder contained over 200 pages of documents related from the fall of 2009 Afghanistan policy review with a date range approximately August through October 2009. Her writes that Biden did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended. He did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died. In an added letter at the end of the report, Biden lawyer Bob Bauer and special counsel Richard Sauber wrote, "We do not believe that the report's treatment of President Biden's memory is accurate or appropriate. The report uses highly prejudicial language. Excuse me, you are now looking a gift horse in the mouth and saying, I don't like the teeth." Okay? That's crazy. These motherfuckers are like, hey, we got away with this. We got away with retaining classified documents. And this is part of the reason why this was brought forward as like a reason as to why we shouldn't even prosecute. We shouldn't even bring forward charges, because like juries will look at us like we're assholes. Okay. Meanwhile, well, that's one of the reasons why they didn't even fucking press charges. Big homie's saying that's a fucked up way. So what do you want? You want the smoke or not? Do you want them to press charges then? That's crazy. Let's put both in jail, charge them with treason, and get Cornel West elected. I love that. It's a great idea, chatter. I'm never gonna fucking say don't arrest and prosecute former presidents or current presidents. I'm on board with that no matter what. I will be there no matter what, okay? I'm a fan. Do it. Do it, pussy. Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm there, okay? I'm jank-pilled. I'm based and jank-pilled. Don't care. Still voting for jank. It's jankum. Anyway, Bauer letter continued. In fact, there is ample evidence from your interview that the president did well in answering your questions about the years-old events over the course of 5 hours. His interview began the day after the October 7 attacks. Oh, he was Dude, he was emotional after October 7. That's why he couldn't answer properly on when his son died. Your Honor, you don't understand. I was feeling emotional. Back to Her's report. Mr. Biden's memory was significantly limited, both during his recorded interviews with a ghostwriter in 2017 and his interview in our office in 2023. Okay? Holy moly. And his cooperation with our investigation, including by reporting to the government that the Afghanistan documents were in his Delaware garage, will likely convince some jurors that he made an innocent mistake, rather than acting willfully, that is, with the intent to break the law as the statute requires. I think that's also another big component here that we must not forget, and that is that there needs to be willful intent to retain classified documents, and that you can't chalk it up as a mistake. Which, by the way, for the record, wait, so they concede he wasn't willful? He's saying that because they cooperated with the investigation and literally told the government that he had the Afghan documents in his Delaware garage, he wasn't he didn't have willful intent to break the law. If he obstructed justice deliberately, even like charges that you can hit him on with obstruction of justice, they're saying you can't really do that because he comes across as like too sympathetic of a criminal for a jury, because they'll say, oh, he's old and doesn't remember a lot of stuff. But in areas where he does remember, he took and retained classified documents, he's openly cooperating with the investigators to say, go ahead, take it. I have it in my house, in my Delaware house. I have these documents. All right. It would be difficult to convince a jury they should convict him, by then a former president who will be at least well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Third, as discussed to some extent above, Mr. Biden will likely present himself to the jury, as he did during his interview with our office, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. While he is and must be accountable for his actions, he is, after all, the President of the United States. Based on our direct observations of him, Mr. Biden is someone for whom many jurors will want to search for reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince the jury they should convict him, by then a former president who will be at least well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. His defense is basically, when he's lucid, he cooperates, and yes, when he's not lucid, it comes across as sympathetic to a jury, which will definitely find reasonable doubt. Because the point is, did he retain classified documents with malicious intent, knowing full well that he was in violation of the law, or was he not doing that? And they're saying that this is not like an easy to prove case, because of how old he is and because he also cooperated with the investigation. Law tip: this basically goes to the insanity defense, wherein a defendant may assert the defense if they did not appreciate the wrongfulness of their conduct due to their mental state. This report basically is saying that Biden was so demented that he literally didn't know he was doing crime. That person also has the nuclear codes, by the way. I don't think that they're saying that he was so demented that he didn't know he was doing the crime. I think they're saying that he will come across as one who is so demented. Or rather, he'll come across positive in the eyes of a jury. And considering that this isn't like a super high crime, I guess, like super severe crime, they're chalking it up as like, he's an old guy, it'd be too hard to convict. Investigators will be extremely hard pressed to find any potential juror that doesn't have or didn't have to deal with elderly parents, grandparents. They wouldn't relate to Biden's defense. I do kind of agree with this sentiment that it seems sort of out of place that the special counsel to be weighing on. Shouldn't they just ideally just lay out the facts objectively? They also are not prosecuting someone that they caught who is in violation of the law to a certain degree. So they are writing out in their report what their assessment is, and this is a part of their assessment. If it is so obvious in their assessment that Biden has gaps in his memory through the interviews that they conducted with him, like very glaringly obvious gaps in his memory, which it seems like he did, not remembering his son's death, or not his death, but like when he died, not remembering when he got out of office, severe lapses in memory that show, you know, serious decline in mental faculties, that would absolutely be part of the reason why you wouldn't push for a case. Like, you wouldn't push to take this to trial, despite the fact that there is at least enough evidence that he definitely did retain classified documents when he should not have. Special counsel Herr said Biden had diminished faculties and faulty memory in their interview. Given the intelligence military officials present and the topics discussed at the meetings, Mr. Biden encounters Zwodnitzer, Mr. Biden would have realized that his notes did or were likely to contain classified information, but taken as a whole, the evidence will likely leave jurors with reasonable doubts about whether Mr. Biden knew he was sharing classified information with Zwonitzer and intended to do so. For these jurors, Mr. Biden's apparent lapses and failures in February and April 2017 will likely appear consistent with the diminished faculties and faulty memory he showed in the Zwonitzer's interview recordings and in our interview of him. Therefore, we conclude that the evidence does not establish that Mr. Biden willfully disclosed national defense information to Zwonitzer. The passages Mr. Biden read to Zwonitzer on April 10th, 2017 contain information that remains classified up to the secret level. He retained and disclosed classified information to a third party that did not have security clearance, which is a clear violation of the law. But when you look at the intent side in this circumstance, given that the interview that he was conducted had many instances where he literally had demonstrated genuine lapse of genuine gaps in his memory, they're claiming that he basically didn't know what he was fucking doing. Like, he didn't know that it was classified information. He was too senile to recognize that the information that he was delivering to Zwonitzer was classified information. Because if he's not senile in that circumstance, he's willingly he's having a Kid Rock moment. Okay, he's having a Trump Kid Rock moment in that circumstance where he's basically willingly giving up classified information to someone who does not have a top secret classification security clearance, top secret security clearance to be able to handle classified intelligence. Situation room meeting from the summer of 2015. Immediately before discussing the notebook entry, Mr. Biden discussed extremely personal notebook entries touching on the illness and death of his son, Beau, its effects on the family, and the wrenching decision about whether to run for president in 2016. After discussing these highly emotional topics, Mr. Biden turned immediately to the notebook entry from the summer of 2015 Situation Room meeting, which began on the very next page of the notebook, and read additional portions of the entry nearly verbatim, including the portions of the entry he read to Zwonitzer during the February 16th, 2017 meeting. The passages Mr. Biden read to Zwonitzer on April 10th, 2017 contain information that remains classified up to the secret level. The Afghanistan documents were ultimately found in Mr. Biden's Delaware home in a badly damaged box in the garage near a collapsed dog crate, a dog bed, a Zappos box, an empty bucket, a broken lamp wrapped with duct tape, potting soil, and synthetic firewood. Do you think they dropped Biden? Fuck no. No, things will get increasingly more partisan going forward. Dude, they didn't drop Biden before. Why would they drop him now? No, we're stuck. We're riding with Biden whether we like it or not, folks. Damn, Joe, you live like this? Exactly. I think Brandon is a perfect president for our time. He's an aging, decrepit man representing an aging, decrepit empire whose only reliable function is lashing out to desperately cling to fading glory through violence. Brandon is the representation of entropy. Yes. I work in the field. Special counsel is unique from other prosecutors. When regular prosecutors do not charge, they don't say why or detail anything. Special counsel is supposed to write these reports even if they don't charge. The cognition stuff is damning. And it makes sense, by the way, no charges. Federal criminal system is extremely rare to charge people older than 80. It is practically unheard of outside of mafia bosses. Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, the other reason why it's a special prosecutor or special counsel is because is obviously because like Brandon is currently the president. So if it wasn't a special counsel, if it was directly a DOJ person, right, then it's like a police internal affairs type beat. You know what I mean? It's like the guy who is basically the leader of the DOJ is investigating himself. So clearly, in that circumstance, there is a conflict of interest, even though there shouldn't be technically. And I don't even believe the fucking Brandon regime would do such a thing because they're too libbed up. Okay, they're too libbed up to do that. That's more Trumpian, in my opinion, than something that the Brandon regime would do. The Republicans would have made mincemeat of that and would have utilized that to be like, look at the double standard. Now that there is a special prosecutor, because it was a special prosecutor that detailed out in this report, but a special prosecutor nonetheless, they can't say it's improper, even though they will still say it regardless. But Hassan, why should anyone take you seriously when it comes to political content? Well, one, my name has one S in it, not two. And two, I don't know. I mean, you can make up your own mind, right? I think you're an adult. I assume that plenty of people are adults that are coherent, have all their mental faculties in order. You don't have to take me seriously when it comes to political content. My goal always is to hope that you make up your own mind after listening to what I have to say and see if I'm presenting a decent argument. And not be motivated by other people that you have watched prior with like clip chimps or clips completely out of context that present my opinions on matters in a false light. I think you're an adult. I think you are capable of sitting in here, listening to what I have to say, and make up your own mind, rather than be like, well, my favorite content creator said he's bad. And when I'm talking about this kind of stuff, I also mean like match it up against like actual reading of the news, for example, like, you know, reading of articles that I'm looking at, going to primary sources, instead of like matching it up with whatever some random shit stirrer is saying online. That makes sense. You might not agree with me. There are plenty of people who don't. If you're asking like, why should we take you seriously? Well, I will always tell you what my position is. I will also tell you what I think, like where my biases are. So I think that's more honest in my opinion, because it's impossible to avoid biases when you're making interpretations of the news. And that's my assessment. So I don't know what you would assume I'm here because of other people's opinions. Well, because you came in with a very seasoned, I would dare I say emotional question that is like very loaded. And oftentimes it's people that are motivated in their reasoning that come in and ask questions like that. Matty Iglesias, Matt, this is fucking bullshit. You appoint a Republican special counsel to investigate. He investigates. The investigation does not reveal a crime. So instead of saying all good, he goes off and does partisan political hits. Now sit down, young folks, and I'll tell you how we got here. It all started when Bill Clinton walked across the tarmac. I don't like that he's saying that he's saying that you appointed a Republican special counsel to investigate. He investigates. His investigation does not reveal a crime. No, his investigation did reveal a crime, just not one that is like ready to be prosecuted on conditions that you do not want to repeat on here because it goes against your arguments that Brandon is actually totally, perfectly mentally cognizant and mentally coherent. So that's the reason why he's upset. Now, you can argue on the basis of whether or not the crimes that they're talking about are severe, right? Because they're not. But if you argue that the crimes that he's talking about are not severe, then you actually basically remove one element of the Trump classified document saga, that it's like not sufficiently severe enough crimes that Trump was engaging in on the document saga that he engaged in obstruction of justice over.
Actually have been doing for some time. The fact that they turned in these classified documents right away to the National Archives is something that they've talked about. The fact that they consented to the search of multiple locations, that he sat for a voluntary interview. He did that the weekend that the Israel war broke out. So this is the contrast that they are going to continue making. But of course, as we were talking about before, doesn't take away the political ammunition that this gives the president's critics and Republicans, including the former president.
All right, MJ Lee, let's talk about that now with CNN's Kristen Holmes, who covers President Trump, former President Trump in West Palm Beach, Florida. For us, and Kristen, Donald Trump has been given a gift of sorts in this special counsel report. The special counsel specifically noting President Biden's, quote, diminished faculties and faulty memory, unquote, and giving specific instances that are
Bro,
cringy.
CNN running this, like the way that they're running it, is unironically more actively damaging to Brandon than Fox News having fun with the report.
Standard of justice and how unfair it is that President Biden is not being indicted. Am I right?
And you guessed right.
Oh, okay.
You guessed right.
Yeah.
That is, you win the prize.
Yes.
So I do want to say something before I read this statement, because I think it's really important. And that is that most of his supporters, if not all of his supporters, as well as people who are considering supporting him, will believe the statement that I am about to read. Now, there are inaccuracies in it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, and we'll go through some of those inaccuracies. But as you said, Jake, this was a political gift of sorts to Donald Trump. An ability for him to blur these two cases together, to be able to say it's a two-tier justice system, and all of that conversation around Biden's mental faculties, that is something that...
That's what I said. Yo, CNN's repeating what I'm saying. What the hell? I literally said this is such a goddamn... I literally tweeted this like earlier. Not even a joke. The exact same thing that she just said. Absolutely worst double bind here, where they show that Biden willfully retained classified documents and comes across as too senile for a jury to convict him. The right will make mincemeat of this. They'll play up the double standard in courts and harp on how old Biden is.
The special counsel released their findings today, about their look into my handling of classified documents. I was pleased to see they reached a conclusion I believed and knew all along they would, that there are no
that my mental faculties are not all right.
charges should be brought in this case. As many of you know, this was an exhaustive investigation going back literally more than 40 years. 40 years when I became a United States Senator when I was a kid. I was a kid, 29 years old. Special counsel acknowledged I cooperated completely. I did not throw up any roadblocks. I sought no delays. In fact, I was so determined to give special counsel what they needed, I went forward with a 5-hour in-person interview over the 2 days of October the 8th and 9th last year, even though Israel had just been attacked by...
Bro, even though Israel had just been attacked, brother, what are you talking about? What is that? He's like, man, you don't understand. Okay. My heart bled. I was in an emotional moment for myself. Israel had been attacked. I forgot when Bo had died.
In fact, I was so determined to give special counsel what they needed, I went forward with a 5-hour in-person interview over...
By the way, the joke that he's saying he was a kid at the age of 29 is that he's old. That part I get. This is actually pretty coherent for Brandon. He's actually doing a good job. Got to hand it to him.
The 2 days of October the 8th and 9th last year, even though Israel had just been attacked by Hamas on the 7th. I was in the middle of handling an international crisis. First,
he got that good shit, dude. They gave him the good drugs today. This is his wakeful hour. They need to make debates during this time. You do not, in fact, have to hand it to him. What do I always say? I'm going to be honest. Okay? He got that good adrenochrome here, okay? Whatever kind of cocktail they had, it was hitting. He did a good job. I can't believe that the way that we are analyzing the leader of the free world, the most powerful person on the fucking planet, is like how well he presents himself, how mentally coherent he can present himself in 59-second increments. Okay? That is insane. That is insane. Jesus Christ. Yeah, we're analyzing him like it's baby's first words. Oh, yeah. Bradley Moss, Esquire, says the current president has a poor memory. The former president has a poor memory, has been indicted 4 times, was found liable for sexual assault, oversees a company convicted of tax fraud, and unleashed a mob on January 6th. Give me the well-meaning elderly man. Dude, it's so Jover. This kind of shit basically shows me that, like, the Democratic Party can literally do everything that the Republican Party is doing, and liberals will still go, yeah, we're still voting for D. We're still voting D, baby, no matter what.